Hello.
Hello, welcome to the December 18th market web of Sennett.
What an exciting day we had today in the markets. The volatility has returned. It was a good day.
Very good for you.
Yep. I know you always talk about the VIG and the duplicity in the markets, that the idea is to make the public pay. So today was yet another perfect example of this. S&P 500 sold off 46 points from the high it made overnight, 37.23, only to close almost unchanged, down 2 points. And now it's up even more after hours. So like you said, the market tries to make its money off the people, to make them buy and sell at the inopportune times. And most of the move back to break even was in the last 15 minutes of the day.
Have you found that courage is very important in your life?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, to hold the position that goes against you, or to hold the position that is in your favor, requires even more so.
What about in your real life? Tell us a little bit about how you came to America.
Oh, in real life, it's, well, I came to US 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago, and it was temporarily on vacation and work and travel, learn the language. And when I came to US, I really loved it. And so I didn't want to stay, even though obviously it required a lot of work, both immigration papers and actual work. I had 2 jobs. So it takes courage to not go back home.
What was your job in Russia?
I actually didn't have a real job in Russia. I just graduated the college. And when I came here, I was working in the hotel industry. I was cleaning rooms. I was working in a pizza place, making pizza, whatever it took to $7 an hour minimum wage in Maryland, whatever it took to make money, because I really didn't want to go back. And so it's kind of funny to see when people complain that this country is not friendly to immigrants. It really is racist or whatever. I found that quite the opposite. People were incredibly friendly. Americans are very friendly and helpful people.
And did you face great adversity that your courage enabled you to survive on?
Sure, of course. I mean, I came to US with $300 in my pocket, so it's not exactly easy to start with no money. I spoke barely any English, no skills, no language, no money. It's not an easy to start, but I really don't like to complain. I prefer to be grateful for the opportunity that I was given to get here. And so I think that exactly is the problem with current culture, that people mostly complain that it's not fair, we're not given this or we're not given that, they have this advantage or that advantage, instead of just focusing on bettering themselves. And like you said, using courage to just move ahead and improve their own life, their own situation and lot. Life is not fair, but we move on.
Well, was the market fair today? It went up 30 points.
Yep.
From 3:30 to the close.
Right, in the last 15 minutes almost. Yep, most of the move was in the last 15 minutes.
And at the end of the day, it was up on the day.
Yep.
It ended at 1337.11, the S&P.
Right, and now it's up even more after hours.
The Dow was down 100 points. By the end of the day, by 1700, the market was actually up 4 points. Now, this was one of the largest rises in the last half hour ever.
Yes.
And
do you have any prediction for that? If the last half an hour has this monumental rise, what is it for tomorrow?
Short.
You're short?
That's right.
Oh, I guess I'm in a good company then.
Oh, your show also?
Yes. You
When did you,
probably think now it's a bad company, but who knows? Well, no, but my main reason was because of the last, I was short today as well, but pretty much covered most of it before or around 3 o'clock or so. But after that 15-minute insane up rise in the last 15 minutes, I'm definitely short.
I shorted it 1 minute before our talk started
Oh, wow.
at 13:17.
Wow, that's just the perfect,
I don't know if it's perfect. We'll see
well,
about.
perfect for the day. I was short from slightly lower, like 10, and then I added a little bit also in 1 minute before the meeting started. So it's funny. And well, we'll see what tomorrow brings. But I think we also have to talk about Tesla, at least mention it briefly. It was also a wild ride today. In the last 15 or 20 minutes, from the low of 628 to the high of 695 after hours. That's a 10% move in 15 minutes. And I know it has to do with the Tesla inclusion into S&P 500, option rebalancing, all that stuff, but it's still quite an impressive move for a large stock like that.
Well, today was the expiration, the quarterly
Right.
expiration, and there were a lot of dynamics.
Right.
I guess a lot of people think that you can't keep a good man down. But just someone from New York, it reminds me of the Knicks. Often they were way behind near the end of the fourth quarter. Then they had a tremendous rally to maybe lose by 2 or 4 points in the overtime. But then the next day was back to normal. They were losing again.
Right.
So I think that's what's going to happen. I guess there was a lot of optimism concerning the stimulus.
Right. I just think it was strange activity that had to do with, like you said, options, expirations, rebalancing, the whole Tesla inclusion. I think it's just a strange abnormality in that sense. And again, speaking of VIG, the options on Tesla, I'm not sure if you looked at them, the options on Tesla were wild. The spread alone on the $3 options, for example, with January expiration, $3 option, the spread was 70 cents, 70. And on some more expensive options, the spread was $1. So like you said, I don't know how people or anybody trades that stuff where the spread is 30% of the price almost. I don't know why. I mean, I know it's because it has to do with Tesla inclusion, but still such wide spreads. And there is no arbitrage. There is nobody is interested in tightening the spread. So it's kind of interesting. What do you think about that?
I think it proves one of our general principles, which is that the infrastructure is very evil. And on a day like this with the spread,
Yes.
the spread of 25%, you're bound to lose, regardless of whether you buy or sell.
Unless you're the ones making the spread, then you're bound to win regardless.
Well, that brings me to the rules for day trading, because this is a perfect.
Right, we didn't finish them yesterday, yes.
Well, I guess the main rule is to have courage, not to get forced out by moves within the day. And the courage should be to be long. I think if you ran almost all the systems that involve buying a dip or buying at a certain hour or waiting for a rise of several points or doing the opposite of yesterday, you'll find that none of them work unless you hold until the close. So that very few people can have the courage to hold until the close, but that's what you have to overcome. Now, today illustrates the most important rule is keep the VIG down. Don't give up too many percentages to the market makers. And then related to that is, if you're going to trade within the day, don't grind, but be courageous and go for it. Don't grind, don't go for short, for small profits, go for a big one. Then we also said, hold overnight, or at least you're on fair territory with the infrastructure. Since they're not holding overnight, you can hold overnight. And I think the studies show that the move in the overnight day, in the 4:30 p.m. Eastern time to 9:30, are much larger than returns from 9:30 p.m. from 9:30 a.m. to the close at 4:15. So that would be another reason for overnight. Then get ready to do a somersault at the end of the day. Assume that tomorrow will be the opposite of today. And I think one of the major things to avoid is what they call a sold out bull. I've succumbed recently to losing money in gold. I bought it when it was down about 15%, 2000. I bought it 1700s. I bought it for 6 or 7 days, and it managed to go down each of the days I held it, and then I finally gave up on it, and it went up 5 days in a row back to 3,900. And I felt an unholy tendency to try to make back the money I lost by buying gold again. And I think everybody has that tendency when you lose with a certain position to try to recover it in the same way. Like if you're losing gold, you buy gold.
Mm-hmm.
Losing 10, you buy 10. Much better to, when you've lost in a certain stock, to choose another one. Don't try to make it back in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did notice today that the markets were pretty much as we said, inflation was in the wind. This was a very unusual day, in that bonds were down the whole day, even when the stocks were down 2%. So I think that we're beginning to see the flames of inflation.
Right. I think we need to listen, people need to listen to our podcast conversation yesterday. We talked a lot about inflation as well and how it relates to Bitcoin,
We
which will.
spoke about Bitcoin, and it closed today at another new high, 23,000. Great.
Yep.
Great. It's a great time to be long, and I guess everybody is happy that none of the tarnish from the Hunter Biden scandal is affecting the woke people. Everything looks good. However, my optimism is a little reduced. I noticed that the market for the prediction for the Georgia election is 67% now that the R's will win. It was 80%, it keeps going down. And as the incumbent continues to fight the results of the election, the prediction market will go down further. I noticed that the other 100-year-old man that's trading, Charles Munger, the partner of Warren Buffett, said that this is the most unusual market he's ever seen. That's very strange since he's 100 years old, but he thinks it's much too high. He thinks that there's a lot of froth in the market, and it's a good time to be very cautious.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
No, I disagree with that. I'm subject to what they call the not invented here bias. And since I can study almost everything that is said in the vernacular, I can test everything. And as I said, the amount of negative news, the reasons to be fearful in this year are no greater than the reasons to be fearful in any other year. On average, the market's gone up 60,000-fold in a century, and it's managed to.
Right. It did have a 30% drawdown though this year, so it didn't go up in a straight line.
Well, that was the ideal time. The ideal time to take out this book.
Okay.
For 50 years in Wall Street was.
Oh, wow.
Was written in 1890. So actually our readers have a better.
That's some rare book.
Yeah, it's very rare. In fact, when Wiley published it, it was so expensive that they asked to borrow my copy of the book so that they could publish it. And he's very famous. It was written by Henry Clues, and he's the founder of Kane Investing. And he points out that all the most wealthy people that he knew waited until there was a panic on Wall Street. And that panic occurred every year or two. And they were usually, these were old men, and when the market fell like that, they'd take out their canes, because they all had bad hips that weren't replaced in those days. And they'd cane down to Wall Street from their stately mansions on Upper Fifth Avenue, which then would have been in the 50s. And they'd buy stocks to the full extent of their wherewithal. And then a few weeks later, the market would be up about 10% from the time when their cane investing came. And they put the overplus into real estate, into blue chip real estate at the corners of likely blocks. And that's how they became the most wealthy. So when you said that the market was down 30%, that was the ideal time for cane investing. And I think that applies to individual stocks also.
Do you trade or own individual stocks, or do you only mostly do the index?
Both, but most of my efforts are in the futures market. However, I study individual stocks and try to find the systematic methods of making money. But in any case, that's the best way of making money, 50 years in Wall Street by Henry Clues. But our readers have an advantage, because Henry Clues was trading the market for 50 years from the Civil War, where he sold, he helped the government sell bonds to the North to finance the war until 1905. But I have been trading for 65 years. So our readers have the advantage. Of course, I'm probably not as connected and certainly not as astute as Henry Clues, but I've been trading for 15 years longer than he did when he wrote this book. Well, what else?
I think it's a great transition from that ancient book to a contemporary investment like Bitcoin. We all want to know, what do you think about Bitcoin? And not just the price, where it's going, but what do you actually think about Bitcoin? Is it a commodity? Is it money? Is it just a speculative vehicle? What is it to you?
Well, Yelena, one of the rules that all listeners and all investors should follow is to be ignorant of your ignorance, the malady of the ignorant. And after Andy Aiken's beautiful and very sentient talk about all the factors affecting Bitcoin, it would be wrong for me to add my views, because his views are much sounder, much better. So I'm ignorant on it, and I shouldn't comment on things that I don't know anything about.
Ray, it was a great conversation yesterday. I mean, I have to listen to it myself. Just there was so much good info. I have to listen to it again. He talked about the Bitcoin valuation, where it's going, how it compares to Ethereum. He also has a background in pharma, so we had a few good ideas on investing, what he's buying right now. It was just so much that even though I was there, I have to listen to it again.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
Right, so I would like to
I wish
thank you
I had
again.
as much knowledge in our field as he did in his field. I love to come across someone who knows his field perfectly. And I got that impression yesterday. Well, I have nothing of non-ignorance to say any further. I wish.
Well, just about Bitcoin, just one tiny little fun thing. Like Andrew said, that pullback is probably likely, even though long term he is very bullish, as far as I understood. The rap a little pump, I think. I'm not into rap, but there's a rapper who is right now is going to launch his pump coin cryptocurrency. And I think that with all this hype that's coming online, with Coinbase going public and the rappers doing cryptocurrency launches, the Bitcoin is most likely going to pull back to shake off the weak hands. And that's all I was going to say. And another funny thing is that still Coinbase is going public and raising money in US dollars, which is kind of funny because why are they raising money in US dollars and not in cryptocurrency or ICO or whatever it's called? If Bitcoin is the best currency or Ethereum, why go public in US markets and convert your holdings into the dollar? So I don't know about that.
Well, that's a very contrarian view, very skeptical, sounds very sensible.
Well, I am skeptical of Bitcoin. I mean, just because the price is going up, it's a great investment and it's probably going to go up a lot more. But as far as what's it for, I'm still not convinced that it has any future.
That reminds me to what Jim Laurie, the greatest investor and the founder of the Merrill Lynch studies that show that the market goes up 50,000-fold a century. And he'd sometimes ask me, you say the market is so high and there's so many difficulties, so many bad things that could happen. What would happen? Do you recommend selling? And he'd say, yeah, if you sell, the problem is you'll never know when to get back. And everybody who sold finds that when they try to get back, it's 20-30% higher, as it would have been in February 2020. And I'm afraid that if I said that the same thing might happen to Bitcoin. But in any case, I wish you and our listeners a happy weekend. I'm sure there'll be many woke events, many events duplicit events that will make the public do the wrong thing. And I wish you a happy weekend. Thank you very much.
Same to you, Victor. Enjoy your weekend. Away from the markets. Bye.
I'm never away from the market. I study it.
Well, the weekend, unless you're going to be trading Bitcoin now, you have to be away from the markets. The only market that's open is Bitcoin.
Well, that reminds me when in my racket career, I kept a diary, which was published, and I played squash every day, 365 days a year for 12 years, from the time I was 18 to 30. And the same is true. Unfortunately, I don't have the gift in the markets that I did in the racket sports, but I try to compensate for that by studying, so that the weekend will be spent in celebrating the holidays, but also in doing research. And I hope to share some of that research with you and our listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.